Yeah, you see that in the middle of the screen? That's what we're worried about. Nick Bosa. Pay Nick Bosa. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Nick Bosa. We saw updates today. Kyle talked about it. Lynch talked about it. We're going to talk about it. How's everybody doing? They got to pay Nick Bosa eventually, don't they? I hope it's sooner rather than later. We only got 11 days till kickoff. I don't know. You guys starting to get a little worried? Are you getting a little worried? Um, how we doing? How we feeling? How we doing? How the heck are we doing? So Nick posted there was a positive update today, this morning. As you know, we posted it on the gram, on everywhere. It was all over the place. There was a big positive update. Yesterday, everybody had, they were a little scared. Yesterday, people were scared. And I'm glad this update came out today because I think we just have to be patient. We just got to wait. This was the update today. And this was in the morning. Yeah, everybody's worried, right? The update this morning was huge. It says source. This is from Jason Dumas. He's a he works for 957 The Game, Bleacher Report on Cron 4 TV. He's a sports reporter there, so he's plugged in. He's got some sources. He says source Nick Bosa will be on the team and available to play Week 1 in Pittsburgh. The two sides plan to get a deal done within the next few days. This is kind of what John Lynch was talking about, right? John Lynch has said they're trying to get this deal done. They're trying to get the deal done. They're trying to get the deal done. And this report came out today. This was a great report because last night everybody was worried. Oh my God, is Nick Bosa going to get traded? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to get traded? And everybody's worried. Everybody's starting to get worried. As you know, I could see why. But this was a good report. Again, the report says Nick Bosa will be on the team, available to play Week 1 in Pittsburgh. The two sides plan to get a deal done within the next few days. Within the next few days, right? I think that's key because they got practice next week. They start practice Monday. They got a game plan for Week 1, and it looks like Nick Bosa is going to be part of that game plan. Obviously, we all hope he is. Now, if you remembered a couple years back, T.J. Watt, he held out too. He was signed like 2 or 3 days before the season started, so he was not necessarily there right when Week 1, kind of started. So we might see the same thing with Bosa. But they just got to get him in there. They need to get him in the locker room. And again, that was a positive report. I think that was the best report we've seen in a while. It was very positive. Everybody's kind of excited because now we get our first report of saying it's kind of getting closer because the last few days it was okay. They're not close, so it's going to take a while. Remember, Lynch said it last week. We still got a lot of work to do. Ian Rappaport says, it's still got a lot of work to do. No deal is imminent. And then today it was like, okay, they're getting closer. They're trying to get a deal done within the next few days. So I feel like every day they're knocking a little bit closer. They're getting it done, and I feel like it will get done maybe by the weekend. Maybe by the weekend. I don't know. I'm really hoping this deal gets done sooner rather than later. Now the other news of the day: Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Obviously, they're going to be asked about Nick Bosa. Um, that's the big dilemma, right? Everybody wants to know about the Nick Bosa news, right? And they asked them. So obviously, they're going to ask about quarterback stuff still. That's always going to be a topic of the 49er land. But right now, the news we need to know about is Nick Bosa. And Kyle Shanahan was asked straight up. They asked him on the possibility of trading him because yesterday there was rumors. Everybody was talking about, oh man. I think Cam Inman asked the question. They said, is there a possibility of trading Nick Bosa? Kyle Shanahan looked at him and said no. He didn't even hesitate. He said no. Now, I know a lot of people are out there. They're saying, oh, well, DeForest Buckner, he said it about Defoe. He said it about Trey Lance. Okay. I'm sure that they've said those things. They said no before. This is Nick Bosa. If the 49ers were to trade Nick Bosa, there will be a riot, and I will be leading the riot. I'm telling you, they're not going to go out there and screw this up. They're not going to go out there and not sign Nick Bosa. Kyle Shanahan, again, he said no, we're not trading him. They asked John Lynch, Larry Krueger, my guy, asked him straight up. He says, is there a possibility of trading Nick Bosa? And John Lynch, he looked at him without any hesitation, and he gave him the quickest, the most concise no. And it was like, next question. They're not going to trade him. They're working on it. After all this offseason, trying to get this contract done, you think they would trade Nick Bosa? Absolutely not. There's no way they are trading Nicholas John Bosa. Red Eye says, I doubt a 49ers executive said, hey, Dumas, you're at some local Joe Jive radio station. Let me leak some shit to you. Keep it secret. Shh. despite you being a nobody. Okay, no, but here's the thing. It might not just be an executive. See, this is the thing. News gets around. It does just because it may not be an executive, someone tied to the team. He's close to the team. He knows players. He knows a lot of people. He's plugged in. I'm not saying he's the most credible source, but I feel like Dumas is a very credible source. He knows a lot of people in the industry. When you're working for different sports, stations and radios and this and that, you get to know a few people. You get to hear some things. You hear things through the grapevine. So is he the most credentialed report? Probably not compared to Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, but I feel he's more credible than a Reddit user that had everybody in a tizzy yesterday. That's my whole point. Yesterday, people were believing a guy on Reddit, Reddit. But this guy who's plugged in with the team, he does news, he does sports news, he does radio, he does a lot of stuff. He's plugged in. I believe him over a Reddit guy. That's all I gotta say. So maybe the report was smoke, maybe it was clout. Who knows? But I trust that report more than a Reddit report yesterday that the internet blew up and went crazy about. So that's it. That's my whole take on it. But I do think that we are getting closer. I think that was a legit report. I trust it. I trust the source because I've heard things that it's getting closer. I know it's a matter of time. It's not a matter of they need to pay him. They have offered a deal. There's been a deal in place. The agent wants more money. They have to get closer and make the agent happy. That's it. Bottom line, they have to come to an agreement. They're far off from wherever they're at. Whatever the agent wants, whatever the 49ers want to give them, they're somewhere in between. Is Parag penny pinching? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know the numbers yet. We don't know the exact numbers, but I think that it's close and it will get done very quickly. It's got to be done. Reddit is full of morons from Twitter. Keep it 100. Fernando, we need more updates in the next couple of days. We do. It's true. It's true. But also at the same time, right, with a guy like Dumas, why would they want to report, leak it to him? People aren't going to believe him. So you're right. People are going to say, that's a fake report. And they could kind of go under the wire and say, these are just fake reports. Maybe it's not. I mean, people don't believe certain people. Like Mike Silver always gets discredited. And it's crazy because I've discredited Mike Silver a lot. But sometimes he's pretty damn on the point. He's on it. I hate to admit it, but Mike Silver has been on the dot. And sometimes you sit there like, why is he's not plugged? He doesn't know. He's not a reliable source. But Mike Silver, he knows. He knows. Red Eye says the difference is $3.5 million. If it's $3.5 million that's keeping them from signing Nick Bosa, they need to just if they're holding because of $3.5 million, I'd be crazy. That'd be crazy. Just get it done. $3.5 million at this point, at this rate, with the way the contracts work, you can figure that out. You can figure out the $3.5 million. You can backload, do something, incentives. You could figure out $3.5 million. When you're talking that much money. But yeah, again, Nick Bosa, they're hoping to sign him. John Lynch says they're not looking to trade him. Kyle Shanahan says they're not looking to trade him. He's here to stay. The Bears here to stay. Steve-O says, how many sacks will Bosa get this year? Hargrave? Bosa could get up to 20. I think he could get up to 20. 18, 20. He'll be in that range. I think Hargrave gets 10. He gets a 10 piece, I think. I think between them they should get about 30 sacks. 28, 30 sacks. I think for just two players. I think it's not out of the realm. I really do. So we'll see. Whatever the holdup is, there is a holdup. I think they're inching closer. But for the Niner fans, it's not close enough because we want to see the news. We want to be assured that he's going to be there next week to practice to get ready for week one. It's a different atmosphere when Bosa is there. When he's there, the fans are going to be hyped. The players are going to really feel that buzz. Nick Bosa changes everything. The locker room is just going to feel it. He's a guy. He's a guy, man. He's just one of those guys that you want to be around on a team. You probably see his presence. You're like, man, this guy is a football guy. He's one of them guys. When you're on a football team or a sports team or anything, you just see one of those guys like the stars, and you're just like you gravitate towards him. You're just we got to be. Bosa's here, no doubt and no care in the world. When you have a guy like that in the locker room, it just kind of makes everything feel good. It makes everything feel right. You know, you can trust he's gonna lead this team. You just want him out there in the locker room. You just want him out there. So we'll see. Nick Bosa really wants to go out there and play. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he wants to play, and I think the team wants to see him play. I think it's going to happen soon. Again, probably a matter of days, but you know, it feels like years, feels like months. It is kind of getting to the point where it's like, just get it over with. You're penny pinching, whatever the case is. Just pay Nick Bosa. Again, they've offered. The agent at this point, just figure it out, man. Both of these teams, both of the sides need to just get her done. It is, again, it is what it is at this point. I do hope that they're very close. Because again, a week ago, last Friday after that preseason game, John Lynch says they have a lot of work to do. I wasn't too happy when he said he got a lot of work to do. I mean, it's been about a week. It's almost been a week since John Lynch said those words. Does he still have a lot of work to do? I hope not. I hope not. So we'll see what happens. But in other news, Niner fans, 49ers got their practice squad today. They got some you know, some bad news on the practice squad. They lost a few players that we were hoping would come back. You know, they got an offensive lineman, Il Manning. He was a gem. Everybody was hyping him up in the preseason. He did not return to the team. Keith Ishmael, he was a offensive lineman, a center. He is not with the team anymore. They both went to the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they probably upgraded their whole offensive line by signing two 49ers. Probably better than any of the starters they had. So, Il Manning and Keith Ishmael, they won't be on the 49ers. They were hoping to get him back on the practice squad. Il Manning might have been a big one, I think. I think he was a good player, and he had some talent and some potential. You lose a guy like that, you know, he could have been good for the future. Another guy, too, cornerback Deshaun Jameson. The Panthers claimed him off of waivers. This was a really good player. I didn't think he'd clear, and he didn't. He was very underrated, undrafted, Texas guy. He played return man. He was a pretty sticky corner, so he gets to Carolina. They got good cornerbacks there. So it was a tough loss for this team in terms of depth. They had to keep Isaiah Oliver. You lose a guy like this. And, you know, he could have been a good guy, good potential. Hopefully he gets together and he can have a decent, you know, a good career with Carolina. But I was a guy I was hoping they'd keep on the roster. So you lose him. They did sign a guy that wasn't on the team, cornerback from the Packers, Shamar Jean Charles. I don't know. I've never heard of this guy. I've never seen him. Hopefully he turns out. He's depth. He's a cornerback. You lose Jameson and you sign this guy, Shamar Jean Charles. I like the name. So maybe if he plays as good as his name, then he's going to be good. So we'll see. Again, practice squad, develop the guy, see if he can step up and play something. We'll see. My favorite move of the day, they brought back Quantrez Knight. I love this guy. He's a hitter. I'm glad they brought him back to the practice squad. This guy has some talent. So good to hear they brought him back. And then the full 53 was made yesterday, and then they announced 16 players on their practice squad plus the International Pathway Program player Alfredo Gutierrez. He gets to play on the roster because you know the international roster exemption. So we'll go through it. They got Alex Barrett. He's back, defensive edge. Jack Coletto, fullback. They got Chris Conley. Good to see it. They got Marlon Davison, defensive lineman. I'm glad they brought him back. A tight end, Troy Fumagalli. I thought he'd come back, and he did. Good tight end depth. You know, if one of those other guys they have on their rosters gets hurt or something, you can call up Troy. You got Brian Hill, running back. You got the cornerback we just mentioned, Quantrez Knight. You got offensive lineman Corey Luciano. Wide receiver Tay McGill. I like that one. McGill's good. Defensive lineman T.Y. McGill. I liked him. Curtis Robinson, linebacker. They kept Curtis Robinson, but they did not keep Marcelino McCrary Ball. He goes to the Jets. They kept Curtis Robinson over Marcelino McCrary Ball. I'll never know why. Maybe special teams. I was a little bummed out. I liked Marcelino. They didn't keep him, and now he goes to the Jets. Robert Salah probably was like, holy smokes. I can't believe it. Let me get this guy. He's good. But they kept Curtis Robinson. They also kept wide receiver Willie Snead, good veteran. They kept cornerback Trey Swilling. They have offensive lineman Leroy Watson. I liked him in the preseason. So he gets back, and they can develop him and see what he can do for this team in the future. And then they have Isaiah Winstead, wide receiver. That was nice. That's a good player. He has a lot of talent, a lot of potential. He just needs to kind of hone his skills a little bit. So they got him. They'll develop him. And that was the practice squad. So I think overall, for the most part, I think there wasn't really too many surprises other than Marcelino McCrary Ball not getting back on the team. And like I said, having losing Deshaun Jameson and Il Manning, I think those two guys deserve to be on the roster. But it is what it is. They're practice squad players. They weren't going to be on the final roster, so you cut your losses. Hopefully, they can shine somewhere else and do what they got to do. A couple other news. So we talked about this yesterday. There was going to be some roster moves around the team, with the injured reserve, and they did. They did. They got two players, put them on the short-term injured reserve. You got Robert Beal Jr., the rookie. He's been dealing with some hamstring issues, and he's continued to have a hamstring issue, and he re-aggravated. So he's going to go on the short-term injured reserve, according to John Lynch. So Robert Beal, rookie defensive end. He's kind of had a tough start to his career. They love his speed. They love how good he is. But, he has the potential. He has raw talent. But hamstring issues have been limiting him. So he will go on the short-term injured reserve. And Danny Gray, wide receiver, has a shoulder injury. They're going to place him on the short-term injured reserve as well. And as a result, they called up Austin Bryant and Kerry Hyder, basically, to come back to the team. So they said they were going to do this yesterday. They brought back Austin Bryant and Kerry Hyder to one-year deals after they put Robert Beal Jr. and Danny Gray on the injured reserve. I like that move because we needed some defensive line depth. Bryant and Kerry Hyder were huge depth pieces. I think that was the right move. That was a good move. So shout out to the 49ers bringing those two guys back. They said they were going to do it, and they did it. So Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder back, needed that depth. Those two guys are pretty important to this defensive line. Sucks for Robert Beal, but he's a young guy. He'll still have time to figure it out. We need the best of the best right now. And then you got Danny Gray, man. Unfortunate for him. Tough start to his career as well. Last year, he kind of bounced around. He didn't get many opportunities. He got hurt. This year, he's kind of going through the same thing. The injuries are piling up on Danny Gray, but hopefully he can come back and maybe help this team down the line. So that's it. That's the practice squad. That's your injury news for the day. Nick Bosa hopefully comes back. So that's pretty much it. We wrap up the day. That's the news. Let's see what you guys have. Any questions? What do you guys think? Let's take a look. Randy says, will we try and sign Jordan Willis? I thought they were going to today. I could have swore they would sign him, but looks like they're not going to bring back Jordan Willis. Maybe they cut their tie. Maybe down the line, later in the season, if they need some depth, maybe. I mean, he's one of those players that the team knows. And Kyle said, just because you don't make the roster now, or if you're not on the team or whatever, if we had you on the team or whatever, and you're part of the pipeline, they may call you down the line eventually if they need you. So I'm sure Jordan Willis is a guy that they have on speed dial if they absolutely need him. But I think because they brought back Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant, I feel like they're okay with what they have right now, defensive line. My man, hey, Peter Parker. I would love Jordan Willis back, but I think right now they're happy with their defensive line. So Geraldo says, you think that's why the defense didn't play good the preseason because of Bosa? I mean, if you look at it, a lot of it was their backups. Their backups were young. They're still developing, but this defense is way different without Nick Bosa. So, yeah, I think this defense, whether or not, whether Bosa's in there or not, it's going to make a difference. So if you go out there week one and you play without Bosa, this defense is going to be way different. I mean, they're good. They're not great without Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is the tone setter. He's the difference maker. If the 49ers have Nick Bosa on this roster, they can be a Super Bowl contender. If you don't have Nick Bosa on this roster, you're not a Super Bowl contender. It's plain and simple. You're a good team. You're not an elite team. So that plain and simple, that's it. Bottom line. Nick Bosa is the key to getting to Super Bowl for this defense. So Bosa never plays during the preseason. Yeah, that's true. Flood says, you think Bosa is asking for a no trade clause? I don't think so. I don't think there's a no trade. I think it's honestly the money, the value of what they want, the guaranteed, the years. It's something like that. It's something specific in terms of the monetary value. I don't think a trading clause or anything has anything to do with it. It's got to be a number. It's got to be maybe the years. Something specific. I think. I really don't think it's a no trade clause. Beast Mo says, what do you think of the contract is going to look like? I honestly think 5 years, 175, man. It's going to be wild up there. It's going to be like, it's going to be a wild contract. Um, I could see something like 5 years, 175 mil. Honestly, that would be insane, but that would be about 35 mil a year. I think that's what gets it done. 35 mil a year. If that's not enough, then you're crazy. Then you're absolutely crazy. If that's not enough money for you, then I don't know what to tell you. Red Eye say Gray is a bust. Called it the day of his draft. Red flags. Doesn't catch with his hands. Drops the catches. He does lack separation too. I agree. He's one of those straight line speedy receivers, and we see it so many times, man, in this league. There's been so many guys, they get hyped because they run fast, but can they catch? Can they figure out how to run routes? Can they block? And I think that's the key with Danny Gray. Kyle has kind of said it. Debo said it. He's been trying to teach him how to block. Like, you've seen the videos. You see videos of Debo and Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. They're so active and engaged. They're always blocking. They're always hitting, even if they're not in the play in terms of catching the ball. I don't see that out of Danny Gray. And I think you're right. He just doesn't have those other abilities you need to survive in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Is he fast? Absolutely. Can he run a fast straight line route? Can he run that fly route? Absolutely. But what else does he do? And Kyle Shanahan needs you to do more than just run fast in a straight line. Bottom line. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I don't think Gray's going to pan out on this team. It's unfortunate. He's got a small frame. He's getting hurt. I know he needs to add muscle, but I mean, it's already year two. He's the injuries are piling up, man. Yeah, exactly, Peter Parker. You see Kittle, BA, Debo, Juice. They're knocking people downfield. They're knocking the piss out of people. So that's what you need. You got to have that dog in you. What do we always talk about here? When we talk about wide receivers on the 49ers or even CMC, like any skill player on the 49ers offense, you have to have that dog in you. That is why, and we've said this many times, the reason why Dante Pettis never became the player that we thought he would be, or the player that Kyle Shanahan thought he might be when he drafted him, is because he didn't have that dog in him. He didn't have that toughness, that grittiness, right? Peter Parker, no block, no rock. He had that cat in him. That cat in him. He had that cat in him. That's what he had. He had that cat in him. Didn't have that dog in him. He had that cat in him. That's what he did. So that is what it is. Now, let's hope he gets that dog in whoever else they have. That's the difference between Ronnie Bell and Danny Gray. Ronnie Bell and Dante Pettis. This man, Ronnie Bell, is a dog inside him. What did Diamador Lenore and Debo said? They said they got that dog. He has that dog in him. He's a beast, man. That's why Ronnie Bell is going to be something on this team. That is why Juwan Jennings made this roster and gets opportunities, because he's gritty, man. So that's it. That's my rant on that. You got to be tough. You got to be gritty. Kyle Shanahan don't want no sissy boy. Red Eye says the Pettis pass from Fields beat the Niners. Yeah. Dude, I bet you Dante Pettis felt so good for you know what? That's Dante Pettis' greatest moment in the NFL. Let him have that. Let him have that fucking moment. That was probably his happiest moment he's ever going to have. What a chump, dude. Dante Pettis. Boy, I stood up for that man so much. I was like captain of the Dante Pettis hype club. I gave him so much chances. I gave him all the free passes. I hyped him up, bro. And he let me down. That was his Super Bowl moment. It's cracking me up, man. It's just funny. Yeah. Oh man. He might block me again. Hey, he already blocked me. He'll block my personal account. Kyle put Pettis in the doghouse. He really did. He put him in the cat. Is that cat? Is that a cat emoji? He put him in the cat house. That boy was far removed from the doghouse. He put him in the cat house. Oh my God. What else is new? What else we got? I mean, we all want Nick Bosa to sign. Did you guys hear about Hassan Reddick? Did you hear this? I got to post this later. He was on the Rich Eisen show. Did you hear this? This is what Hassan Reddick says. He says he has the NFC champion game rematch circled on his calendar. The game against the 49ers. He has it circled on his calendar. He said, this is the quote. He goes, that San Fran game, man, a lot of chirping, a lot of back and forth over social media about what would have, could have, and should have happened. I'm looking forward to that one. No game more than that. I'm looking forward to that no more than any other game. He says, I've seen the things that guys were saying. Debo, Fred, a lot of these guys that came out and talked about it. I respect them. For me, it's like, bring it on. Y'all kept talking. Y'all kept on talking. Y'all talked about it this whole offseason, through the Super Bowl, and after the playoff games. So it's like, better be prepared, because I know I will be, and I'm going to do my best to make sure the team is ready. Literally, nobody's been at Niners haven't talked about it. After the Super Bowl, they said don't bring it up. Debo Samuel literally hung up on an interview because they kept bringing it up. Hassan, these Eagles, man, they start chirping. They start getting there. Oh my God, I can't. I'm getting fired up. I got this game circled on my calendar too. Unbelievable. Debo is living rent free in Hassan Reddick's head. Absolutely. Absolutely. Unbelievable. They kept being asked about it, Russell. Absolutely. Gotta love it. I love it. I can't wait. BA is really built this season. His upper frame. Bro, red eye. You see that press conference the other day? I mean, he looked like he had his shoulder pads on. BA is going to be wild, bro. Sati says the same dude who keeps crying about the Super Bowl because the turf was slippery when Mahomes was dicing them up. They cry, man. They cry so bad. Cry me a river. These guys cry so bad. Gotta love it. They just cry. My man Peter Park says, "You hyping you up. Your Trey tears are starting to dry the tears. I get it. Everybody's upset. People want you guys gotta get over it, man. It sucks, but it's in the past. It is what it is. It is we still have a Super Bowl roster. We got this big game. We got a hell of a season, man. It is what it is. I wish Trey the best. I saw his pictures in Dallas today. It was weird. It was weird. Just like Jimmy said, it's weird. And then you had Kyle today. Oh boy, Kyle today. This guy, he's rich. He was so mad. He was snarky at the media today. I mean, I get it. They're gonna ask him about this quarterback situation, and I'm sure he's tired of it. It's a mess. And Jimmy said it was weird. And then Kyle said that it's unusual. He says, I wouldn't use the word weird. It's unusual. They're like synonyms. They mean basically the same thing in that context. And then he got mad at Matt Milk. He's like, well, what would you call it? He got a little irritated. And I get it. The whole situation's crazy. But Kyle Shanahan put us in this position. He even mapped out the whole quarterback situation, what happened over the last couple of years. It's literally his doing. So, yeah, they're going to ask you these questions. Don't get snarky. That's it. I mean, it is what it is. He was a little snarky today. I was like, okay, Kyle, keep the energy. I want him to keep that same energy because he was really grouchy today. I'm sure he's tired of answering those questions, but I mean, you're the head coach. You got to man up. You got to own up. You do stupid things. You're going to get asked dumb questions. Kyle was spicy. He was spicy. Just like Jordan Poole getting traded to the Wizards. Yo, Jordan Poole's going to go crazy for the Wizards. They really don't have many options. He's probably going to score a lot of points. Hopefully he can fix his defense and work on his accuracy. But, it's another story for another day. Kyle was definitely spicy. Absolutely spicy Kyle today. There's not much else today going on other than the fact that everybody's patiently waiting for Nick Bosa news. Sati says it's because Kyle knows with everything that has gone on this offseason, there's a lot of pressure on him and John. What's up, Tommy? Fairy Godmothers. Yeah, absolutely, Sati. This is a good comment. That there is a lot of pressure on him and Kyle. Absolutely. So much now, especially for the fact that what has gone on through this offseason. It's been a dramatic offseason. It's been a while. It didn't really need to be this tough. They could have hammered out the Bosa deal a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, maybe. You could have had this whole drama erased. I don't know. It was a wild offseason, but hey, there's a lot of pressure because everybody has seen this team get so far, so far, so far. Eventually, we want to see them matriculate into a Super Bowl win. And it's like you're getting close, but no cigar. There's always going to be pressure. But at some point, you're not just going to keep getting second chances. And they know there's a lot of pressure. They have to deliver a Super Bowl at some point. You have all these high paid players, the Trent Williams, you got George Kittle, you got Debo. BA is going to get paid next year. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Kyle Juszczyk. They're getting paid a lot of money. Christian McCaffrey, Ark Armstead. They're getting paid a lot of freaking money. At some point, you got to deliver a championship. There's going to be pressure. So you're absolutely right. All right. It's going to be crazy, man. And, injuries can happen. You don't know what's going to happen through a season. The NFL season's unpredictable. Tommy says, I'm worried about the injuries. I think a lot of people are. I think people have a lot of stress about Nick Bosa. Can he stay healthy now? Because people question, is he going to be in football shape? We know Nick Bosa stays in shape, but is he going to be, acclimated to the football game? He doesn't play preseason, so I don't think it's going to be that bad. But if he does get an injury, people are going to go roast him, man. If Purdy plays bad, they're going to roast him. They're going to say, should have kept Trey. Sam Darnold struggles if he has to come in. They're going to say, should have kept Trey. There's going to be a lot of pressure on this team, but they have a hell of a team. The depth, it looks a little ho-hum right now, but we'll see. When it's a real game, it's a little different. Mentality is different. This team has battled adversity. I just don't want to see them get to a 3-5 start. I think everybody can second that. But I think we have high hopes. I think this team should do well. Talented team. It starts with signing Nick Bosa to his extension. They have to get that extension, man, sooner rather than later. We need to have positive vibes because I think once Bosa signs that extension, the vibes are going to change. Everybody's mentality, and I think it's going to be a very hyped up atmosphere heading into week 1. So it's got to happen soon. I think a lot of people are a little nervous right now, and I get it. I understand. They need to get that taken care of. And then the kicker situation. Last thing we'll talk about before I bounce out. The kicker situation. So Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch said that they're going to have a practice squad kicker most likely. This week they're going to sign a kicker for the practice squad. So it's going to be rent a kicker. They're not going to get Robbie because, again, if you get Robbie Gold, you have to go and sign him to a year deal. You're not going to rent him. You're not going to put Robbie Gold on the practice squad. This doesn't make sense. You're done. You can't put him on the practice squad. You know what I mean? So you're going to get a rent a kicker. You're probably going to get Vizcaino. And then you're going to hope that Moody's healthy. If he's not, you can call up the kicker on game day or set the day before game day. That's how it's going to work. They're going to get a kicker, put him on the practice squad because they have 16 players. They can add one more player. The international player, Alfredo Gutierrez, doesn't count against the roster. So they can add one more player. Okay, that's what they're going to do. At the end of the day, though, I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy that you have a rent a kicker, you have a practice squad kicker. You're basically saying that you wasted a practice squad roster spot because you messed up the kicker spot position. You could have got Deshaun Jameson, Marcelino McCrary-Ball, Il Manning, one of the guys that you let go that had to leave, right? You could have got one of those guys back. Marcelino McCrary-Ball could have stayed on this roster, but you need a kicker. You need a kicker on your practice squad because your other kicker that you drafted in the 3rd round is not ready to go. It's kind of a bad situation. That, to me, honestly, is worse than the quarterback situation. The kicker situation, to me, is just bad. It's bad. It's down tremendous. Unbelievable, man. That is, to me, the worst thing that is going on with this team. I know the Nick Bosa situation seems tense, but I think they'll figure it out. Quarterback situation was wild, but it's always been wild. The fact that we have kicker drama, I don't think it's going to end for a while. I really don't. It's going to be something that we're going to be like, oh, man, this kicker situation can be the death of us. I really feel that. It sucks, man. Practice squad kicker. I hope we sign a solid kicker too, Ignis. I really do. But this is the first priority. We need to get the Saccaroni man. Nick Bosa signed. We need a kicker this week. One thing I was really John Lynch tried to joke about it. I wasn't laughing. I commented this too on one of the videos someone posted. I think NBC Bay Area posted. John Lynch they asked him about the kicker situation. He goes, oh yeah, we're gonna be, signing a kicker. He said what we just talked about, how we're gonna practice squad kicker. He goes, I never realized, we took tryout. I didn't realize how many people are messaging me that they've been a former kicker that they wanted a tryout. He was like making a joke, like, oh, I got all my messages are flooded by kickers. It's not funny, John. It's really not funny that you're sitting there getting messaged and bombarded by people that want to play kicker for you. It's not funny to me. It was not funny. He tried to make it this joke. To me, I wasn't laughing. Need a kicker. He drafted one in the 3rd round, John. He drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. You serious? He had 2 kickers. They had 2 kickers going into the season. Now you got none. We'll see what happens. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm hoping we get Nick Bosa news sooner rather than later. If we do, we'll be live. We'll talk about it. I hope we get the news tonight. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I will wake up, drag myself out of bed, post the post, and talk to you guys and be hyped up. Let's hope it does. Let's get this deal done. I love you guys. Hit that like button. We'll be back sooner rather than later. I'll probably go live on Instagram a little later. Have a good rest of your night. Take care. Happy day. Let's see if they can sign Nick Bosa sooner rather than later. Red Eye says Gonzalez is known as an injury-prone dude. Yeah, that was their first mistake. They went and traded for Zane Gonzalez, who was an injury-prone kicker to begin with. And they thought they'd keep him around the roster so they can trade him around this time of the year. I don't think Zane Gonzalez was a smart guy in the first place. He was hurt all the time. Like, if you look at his career, he's been on the injured reserve for a quad injury before. It's the same injury Jake Moody has right now. But let's hope he gets better. We'll talk to y'all later. You have a good night.